Hi, my name is Spc Miller, and today I'm going to be giving a class on how to determine the distance on a map. All this information can be found within IAW 3-25.26. This entire class is going to remain unclassified. Our safety risk for today is pretty low. For COVID-19 concerns, please have your face masks on and be practicing proper social distancing guidelines. In case of a fire, we have an exit out of the classroom right here, and then an exit out of the building on both sides. When so, please rally in front of the building so we can get a proper head count in case there is a fire. To mitigate dehydration, please have a water source with you and drink water throughout the course of the class. Without further ado, we'll jump right in. For our agenda today, I'm going to be explaining why is it important to be able to determine the distance on a map, where to locate the scale on a map, techniques on how to find the distance on a map. We'll go into a practical exercise and let you guys practice a little bit before we go into our test. After our test, we'll conclude the classroom portion of this, we'll go into an AAR, and then you guys will be dismissed. For our task conditions and standards today, our task is to be able to determine the distance on a map. Our conditions is going to be right here within this classroom, and our standards is going to be by the IAW 3-25.26, and we're doing all the standards that are within that manual. Land navigation is very crucial within today's Army. Even though we have electronic equipment that can put us at our final destination within inches and even feet of our destination, we still have to know how to step back and do the degraded version of that as well, due to the fact we never know when our electronic equipment is going to fail. So being able to do it bare bones with just a map marker, a protractor, and a map itself is very crucial, and anybody of any MOS or rank should know how to do this due to the fact that land navigation is such a crucial skill within today's Army. It is very useful when using a pace count, because if you don't know your pace count, you might be walking in the direction of your destination, but you don't know when exactly you're going to get there because you don't know how far away it is. You can overshoot it, undershoot it, and just be completely lost over it due to the fact that you don't know how far you have to go. Please watch as I demonstrate how to determine the distance on a map. Alright guys, that is my demonstration on how to determine the distance on a map. I will now get into the step-by-step portions on how exactly I did this. So please pay attention. The first step that I did when determining the location on a map is I first had to define the scale on there. The scale is located within the lower center portion of the map. On there you can measure within meters and kilometers, statute miles, and nautical miles. We are in the United States Army, so with that, we're only going to be using meters and kilometers. There are different kinds of techniques on how to determine the distance on a map. You have your piece of paper method that you can use for larger distances. You can also use a protractor as well to be able to determine the distance on a map. With so, you can find your 2 points that you have located on your map, put your first point in the apex of that triangle, and have the second point line up on the edge of it. As you can see, the numbers are rising up between 1 and 1,000. 1,000 means that you're at a kilometer away or 1,000 meters. So with this, our point falls in between 7 and 8. So roughly 750 meters. You're going to be off a little bit. You're not exactly going to be 750 meters away due to the fact that your points are going to be there, but you don't know exactly how it is. You're going to get there within probably 730, maybe 775, depending on how large that you drew your mark on your map. Small map marks, like small little dots on your map for your points, help out a lot due to the fact that it's a little bit more accurate when you go to determine the distance as well. The other method that we have is a piece of paper method. With that, you find your 2 places on your map, or your 2 points on your map. You line up your 2 dots that you have on there, on the edge of your piece of paper. You mark them with lines on the paper itself. Come down to your scale, and as your scale is, you have all the way up to 1,000 meters, like you have your initial portion of 1,000 meters, 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters, so on and so forth. As we can see from this right here, we can see that I am at roughly 1,200 meters, and that is how I got that. And those are 2 techniques on how you can determine the distance on a map right there. Do you guys have any questions? Yes.
Do geological features affect the distance between my 2 points?
Yes, to a certain extent. If you're going up a hill or down a ravine, you might have to travel a few extra meters due to the fact that you're having to avoid those obstacles, you know what I mean? If you have a large pond in your way that you didn't realize was on the map, you're gonna have to travel around it. You're not gonna always wanna walk through it, it's not ideal. So in reality, outside of the map, when you're actually doing land navigation, you could actually end up walking more than what you anticipated to due to the fact of the environment. Do we have any more questions? Yes.
Where do I find the size of the map?
All right, so the size of the map is located right here on the scale. As we can see, this map is scaled at 1 in 50,000. If you do not know where to find the size of the map at and you just completely overlook that, let's say it correlates directly to your protractor. I'm using a 1 in 50,000 meter scale for this 1 in 50,000 meter map. If I were to use a 1 in 100,000 meter scale, I would shrink my distance I'm supposed to have in half. If I were to go smaller to the other one, I would also double it as well. So knowing the importance of what size your map is and what it's scaled to is very important, so you can use your protractor correctly. Are there any more questions? Yes.
What happens if the meters between my 2 points are more than the scale allows?
Okay, so if I'm getting this correctly, you're asking if our scale right here isn't as long as the 2 points on there. If that is the case, what you would do is you would still use the piece of paper, mark your initial point here, come up and find your second point, and then still mark your second point. You come down to your scale, and as you can see, our distance is longer than the scale. So what you would do is grab your marker again, come in and mark off 1,000 meters right here, or 5 kilometers, my bad. You would mark off 5 kilometers right there. Come back. So it'd be sitting roughly at 6,250 meters roughly is where you would be sitting at. So that is how you determine the distance if it is longer than the scale on the bottom. Does that answer your question? All right, are there any more questions? All right, so we're gonna jump into our practical exercise and practice a little bit. I have a map situated over there. I would like you guys to file through and find the distance between the 2 points that I have marked on the map. All right, you guys did a good job on finding the distance between the 2 points on the map. From this, did you guys have any questions after you've actually concluded the practical exercise? All right, guys, we're gonna jump into our test. For our test today, I have several points that are marked out on this map right here. I would like for you to come up here, determine the distance between the 2 known points that I have on the map, and then if you pass, you are at that point certified to be able to determine the distance on a map. All right, good job, everybody. You guys passed. We're able to successfully determine the 2 distances, or successfully determine the distance between the 2 known points on the map. You guys are all qualified to be able to do that task. So good job, guys. All right, so for our AAR today, what were we supposed to do today? Yes, we were supposed to determine the distance between 2 known points on a map. What did we end up doing today? Determining the distance between 2 known points on a map. That is a good job. Do you guys have any improvements? Okay. Any sustains? All right. I will take those into consideration with my next class to make sure that this class is better than it was before, and also in any other classes that I do. So I appreciate you guys' input on this. To review our risk, we mitigated our risk pretty well. We are still at a low risk standpoint. We didn't have a fire. You guys seem pretty hydrated. You guys have been drinking water and practicing good social distancing guidelines for the COVID-19 crisis that we're having right now. So I would say our overall risk is still pretty low. Continue to practice this anywhere you go to make sure that everybody stays safe and everybody stays healthy. So after that, you guys are dismissed from the class. Good job, everybody, for paying attention, and thank you for attending my classroom portion for today.